There have been countless debates online about the big three of manga, and there really shouldn't be any confusion at this point in time about who's in the big three: One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, but there seems to be a lot of confusion around where the term big three originated from. So in today's video, allow me to clear up all that confusion and explain where the term comes from and why there's only one big three that currently exists. Let's get started. So to dispel any rumors, in case anyone is confused, there is no such thing as a new generation big three, and that is true as of recording of this video right now, November 4th, 2024. Now, a lot of people can come at me in the comments down below if you want, but this is not an opinion, this is factual. There has never been an official statement by Shonen Jump indicating that there is a new generation big three. A lot of people think that the original big three was simply named off of popularity, manga sales, anime popularity, cultural influence, and honestly, that's not true. I'm going to explain where this originally came from. As I mentioned, the term big three is not nearly as straightforward as a lot of people believe. A lot of people think it has to do with sales, popularity, cultural influence, but which one of those is true? Let's start with the history of Shonen Jump. So the Weekly Shonen Jump was launched to originally compete with their two other very popular and successful magazines, the Weekly Shonen Magazine and the Weekly Shonen Sunday. The Weekly Shonen Jump was the new version to compete with those two, okay? And this was launched on July 11th, 1968. So from the mid-1960s till about 1995, manga had officially entered what we will call its golden age. This is when manga and manga popularity, especially internationally, blew up. But specifically in Japan, this is when we saw year after year growth for decades, literally from the 1960s until the mid-1990s, which is just fantastic. So now this is when we start to get into the timeline of the term the Big Three. The Big Three's time period is said to have started sometime about 2002, right after the release of Bleach, obviously, and it's said to have ended sometime in like 2016, 2017, right after Bleach and both Naruto ended for their manga runs. Now, One Piece is still making manga runs, and Bleach is back with the 1,000-Year War, but we're not going to talk too much about those anymore. We're just going to talk about the history of the term the Big Three. So when was the term Big Three actually coined? Now, this was hard to get an exact answer, but some of the research I found through also sifting through other YouTube videos, the term Big Three was coined sometime in the year 2025 to 2026. And now that's really interesting because these mangas hadn't been out very long, but we always associate the term Big Three with dominating manga sales and dominating popularity and cultural influence. But how much cultural influence could they have really had a couple years after coming out? As I mentioned, most manga and anime fans, myself included before doing extensive research into this, we believe that the term Big Three came from the popularity and the domination of the manga sales and eventually the anime later on, and then the international influence. But as I mentioned, if the Big Three's time period started in 2002, and the term was coined sometime in 2005, 2006, how could they have possibly have been dominant during that time period? As I mentioned, most fans assume that the Big Three had something to do with popularity, all these other kind of dominant factors, but when in reality, this was not the case. There's only 1 year when One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach were 1, 2, 3 respectively, or in some sort of order, topping manga sales, and that was in 2009. After the term Big Three was already being pushed around the news in 2005 and 2006. So I found that extremely interesting. Now in 2008 and 2010, they were all inside of the top 10. So 2008, 2009, and 2010, you could say that these three mangas, these three animes, really dominated the scene. They dominated sales. But outside of those, there are plenty of other mangas, such as Death Note, Fullmetal Alchemist, Hunter x Hunter, that also had great manga sales during this time, but were never considered the Big Three or as dominant. But they actually outsold some of these other mangas year over year. So with the term Big Three popping up in 2005, 2006, but mangas were only really dominant 1, 2, 3 in the years of, let's say the 3 years of 2008, 2009, and 2010, but really they were only 1, 2, 3 respectively in 2009. So if that's the case, then how could they possibly be the Big Three before this time period? Because we've already talked about most people assume, and I can show you guys screenshots, most people assume that the term Big Three comes from the fact that they were the most dominant. But that was only the case for 3 years during their runs. So the short answer to where the term the big three comes from was actually dug up in another YouTube video I found while doing research in this. So I want to give credit to the guy. Great video, great YouTube channel. Totally not Mark. It's the big three, anime's biggest lie, that video. In that video, he does an interview with the gentleman that talks about exclusively where the term big three originally came from. And what we found out is that the Shonen Weekly Jump magazines at the back of them basically had a player review card that you could submit which was your favorite manga released. And what they found out is that the big three popularity-wise off of those cards and the feedback from those cards were Naruto, Bleach, One Piece. In that order, actually. Naruto outdid everything significantly. Bleach was next at the time, and then One Piece. Now, what we've seen over the course of time, One Piece has absolutely dominated manga sales over the course of decades, right? Which is really, really cool. But I found that it was really interesting that the term big three did not come from any of the places I originally thought, most fans believe, but it actually came from people like you and I recommending, because of how popular they were, to Shonen Jump, and eventually Shonen Jump used this, in my opinion, to basically promote or hype up their mangas to try to get back to the sales. Remember when I said that manga sales dipped off heavily in 1995? One Piece was released in 1997, Naruto 1999, and then what did we have in 2001? Bleach. So in my opinion, the term big three was really used as sort of this promotion based off of what they saw people were already into. So where does this land us today? How should we define the term the big three in the year 2024, or whenever you may be watching this video? In truth, that's really up to you. As long as you're not adding titles that aren't in the official big three title, most people aren't going to care. But what I think is really important is that we recognize the cultural significance of these animes. If we watched the Olympics just this last year, we saw more anime cultural references than I've ever remembered seeing on live TV, and that was one of the coolest things for an anime and manga fan, even in my 30s. I still get hyped when I see other adults, other young adults, as they're chasing their goals, as they're chasing their aspirations, they're showing off that they have a love for these characters, a love for anime. And how many of the big three were represented while we were watching the Olympics? Honestly, I don't really have an answer for you, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? What does the big three mean for you guys? Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to smash that like down below. Give me a follow, and guys, I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, everyone.